Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to our framework event for COP27, where we delve into the connections between collective trauma and climate change, and how, as we go to the root of climate change and the root of ourselves, we might just be able to live into a new world or a new solution. Lovely to be here again, also after yesterday's wonderful evening with Thomas Hübel and hearing from Sunita Mba. And tonight we are continuing our journey across the different continents, where we started on Monday listening to Sarah Queblatin from the Philippines. Today we are journeying to Zimbabwe. And I have to say that for me, it keeps being astonishing that as I read the news about climate change, about COP, usually it's about numbers and decision-making and renewable energies and budgets and agreements. But really, I feel like I don't hear the voices of the people who are actually experiencing the impact on the ground. So we're changing that, because we know that it's when our hearts can fully feel what a situation is doing that we stand up naturally as human beings and create the change that is needed. So today we will be hearing from Linda Kabaira about the situation in Zimbabwe, how, Zimbabwe, which has long been the most abundant agricultural country of Africa, just like Ukraine has been for Europe, and where rain-fed agriculture is the backbone of the livelihoods, that in the past years, the weather has just been more and more extreme, bringing both floods and droughts, irregularity of the rainfalls, so that the patterns that communities have around how to work with the rainfall and nature to produce food for everyone don't work in the same way anymore. And before that, we'll be hearing from Gina Cortés Valderrama from Colombia about her work with the Women Gender Constituency at COP and in Colombia. And she'll be giving us a short update from the COP. But before we go to Gina and Linda, we'll just take a time to arrive here today. And I want to invite you maybe again to go to the gallery view. Yeah, and take a moment to see who is here today. Welcome each other. Many of us are starting to recognize each other. And just send out a welcome. And also, I would love to give a moment where we just use the chat and you let us know where you're calling from and how you are today. As always, we have Ukrainian translation and we also have German translation. You can turn on the live transcript. Yeah, so just take a moment to use the chat and let us know where you're calling from, and maybe a word or two, how you are right now. Also, after the events of the past days, what is happening for you? Let's just take a moment to see these words: grateful, tender-hearted, optimistic, sadness, curious, engaged, tired, aligning, grateful, curious, mindful, connected place of listening, feeling miracles and sadness at the same time. Grateful and open, touched to include marginalized voices, hopeful. Grieving after just having watched the movie. Yeah, thanks, Edith. Connected, feeling good, awakening, hope, resourced and optimistic, despairing, but calm. Looking forward to be with you, feeling expansive while holding the insanity, vulnerable and tired, curious, excited. Hope and moral distress after watching the film. It's a strong film. Thanks, Don. Yeah, so thank you everybody for coming. Oh, and also Linda, feeling safe and hopeful. Welcome, Linda. Yeah, so yesterday Thomas also spoke about the importance of titration. You know, the fact that as we connect to each other, we create this space where our vessel grows and we are able to meet more of what is. Not within, watching carefully where we go into traumatic reactions, really, of hyperactivation. I have to do something now. Collapse. And starting to work with our own resourcing so that we can come closer to the intensity of feelings, that coming really close to where humanity is at the moment, the disconnect between humanity and the natural systems, the way Thomas spoke yesterday about the way that the world is starting to look more and more like the interior world of human beings. He also spoke about that in actuality, we've all been born into an open wound. The wound of the transgressions of the past that haven't been healed. Yeah, and moving closer to that and feeling it. And then also taking time again to resource ourselves. So that we can all soften with each other, with ourselves, and allow the world to come closer into our bodies. Yeah, so let's just take a moment to welcome our bodies today, maybe closing our eyes. And take a moment to inhabit the sacred land that is our body more fully. And today I would like to invite each of us to connect to our ancestors, our ancestry. And very specifically to go back into your ancestry. And, you might have been adopted, you might not even really know your lineage. So you might just connect on an energetic level. But move into your line of ancestry, and we're looking for an ancestor, an ancestress who lived in deep, deep connectedness to the earth, to the natural systems. For some of us, this might be generations ago. For others, it might be very recent. just see whether you can connect to a strand of resourcing in your ancestry where there's a deep connection to the natural worlds, an ability to feel the pulse of Mother Earth. An ability to understand the seasons coming and going, understand what it means when birds come flying, understand what is needed for humans to support the abundance of nature around us, to listen to the language of the trees and the clouds, ancestors who could call the rains or calm the rains, ancestors who worked with their power animals. And just take a moment for this connectedness to open in you. Might be very concrete, might be very subtle and far away. But for all of us, our lineages go back to places where we were belonging to the land, connected to the hoop of life. Yeah, maybe notice whether connecting with this resourcing can allow you right now to settle more deeply where you are, into your body, into the planet. Welcoming the emotions that connect us, welcoming our higher intentions. Thank you. Yeah, let's take a moment again to see each other. Allow our nervous systems to feel each other. And maybe as we see each other, to also consciously feel the strand of ancestry behind each of us that goes back to a time when there was earth connection. That was very immediate. And let's consciously offer space to each other and these lines of ancestors, as we also offer space now to female climate leaders. And some of you might be starting to feel, wow, there's a lot of women here in these communities on the front lines. And that's true. But we also have a lot of men speaking these days. Thomas yesterday, Charles Eisenstein tomorrow. Yeah, and there was a photograph published on the first day of the leaders of the world coming together. I should share it with you, really, but it's like 90% men. So it's just another little area where, you know, since we have more women here on the call, we're also offering space to women. And yeah, a huge thank you to all of you men who are here with you and who support us in this. So we're going to start today with Gina Cortés Valderrama. And Gina is the co-focal point for the Women and Gender constituency, and she's from Colombia. Gina is currently working on gender, human rights, and climate change policy issues at the organization Women Engage for a Common Future. She's part of various youth networks such as the Heinrich Böll Stiftung, the Global Solutions Initiative, and the Colombian collective Aluna Minga, which is a word I know very well from the Global Eco-Village Network, Gina, Minga. So lovely to have you with us. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being with us. And you're at COP right now, in your hotel at this hour of the day, preparing for the next actions and tomorrow. And we'll just hand over the floor to you to offer us an update of your experience. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this starting moment, which I think is something that we are lacking so much in this space. It is a space in which we do not take the time to stop. It's a space in which we sometimes forget to take care about ourselves, even though we are fighting for a global action, a global purpose for human rights, like for the ensuring a healthy, safe, and secure environment for all. Sometimes you also forget to take this space for yourself, for reflecting on this, even though it is part of your daily day. I was connecting with many of the words, many of the message that you were bringing in terms of the connection with nature, the reflecting on our ancestors. And I was at the same time thinking about empathy and thinking how these type of connections are missing in this space. And because these elements are missing, it creates kind of the chaos and the crisis, different crises in which we are standing today. The Women and Gender constituency is one of the biggest groups that represent civil society. So at this space, this intergovernmental space, they are the governments who take the decisions, who officially have the vote on those decisions. But you have 9 groups representing different sectors, let's say like that, of civil society. So you will find indigenous people, you will find farmers, you will find trade unions, youth, environmental NGOs, research and scientific organizations, local governments, businesses. I hope I'm not missing anyone, and women and gender. Now there is a disability group that is demanding to have a space in these conversations, because they are also differentiated, like have differentiated impacts of climate change. But for my case, I represent the women and gender constituency. And the work that we do is to bring collectively those demands, those needs, those priorities of grassroots organizations, of communities on the ground, frontline communities of climate change to this space. How this is interconnected with the abstract, disconnected discussions happening here, because they are disconnected of the reality. They are disconnected about what we should be really be valuing. Yeah. And why we bring these voices and why we connect those demands and priorities to this space is because we are aware that women or gender not conforming people, trans groups, and so on, they are in the front line. They are affected in a differentiated way to climate change. And this is very connected to our past. This is very connected to the history, a history that we are not able to change, a history that we are calling on society, on governments, on citizens, on everyone to engage and transform. And that is a history grounded on the basis of colonialism. It is a history grounded on the basis of patriarchy. It is a history grounded on a capitalism moved and motorized by this infinite desire of accumulation, of achieving that economic growth in the name of what somebody wanted to name as development. A development that was at the expenses of outsourcing cheap labor based on a differentiation of gender, based on a geographical location, or based on what colonialism established as a grouping on races, on that imaginary of races, of colors, of sexes, of identities. These structures are, even though we might think that colonization happened time ago, the ideology is still happening. And colonialism is coming everywhere, every time. I have used in a recent publication the saying or the words, I don't know, like colonialism dresses up to fit the party. It comes at a certain moment, as what we have known from the past, but it comes every time more. And how it is coming in this moment is in the figure of false solutions, of a green industrialization, of the construction of monocultures in different regions, displacing communities for the sake of creating carbon structure markets. That's the point, how this individualistic and this individual strive or desire of accumulation has been creating the multiple crises in which we are now. And I think that there is the part of people causing that, but there is the part of those that are in the other side, feeling, experiencing the sadness, the anger, the of what our ancestors, our generations in the past had to come up, and what we are still happening, and how unjust this is going to be for the future generations and for the present generations. And this is something that we are here to call out. Yeah, we are here to call that out, because we cannot leave this going on. The science has been clear. The academic science has been clear. The ancestral science knowledge has been clear. We need to act and reconnect with our environment, with our atmosphere, with our others, with ourselves. If we do not do something to change this paradigm of what we value, we are not able to get out of this. You might have seen in the news, you might have seen in the TV or in the radio, might hear about people calling for a just transition, of people calling for renewable energies. And that is, we need to move somehow forward, finding alternatives from technology. But that is not going to be a solution if we are changing one type of extractivism, like for example, fossil fuels, to another type of extractivism in the future, just to fulfill the same system of consumption, production, accumulation. We are calling that fossil fuels now, but in some years we'll be calling that lithium, cobalt, magnesium, for creating batteries, for continuing this creation of individual solutions. I'm super against of these scooters, for example, that you see everywhere. Those individual solutions that are not thinking about the collective provision of social protection structures, like public transport, like public health. And this is something that we, as collective of feminist movements, gender movements, Afro movements, indigenous movements, are calling out. You might see here climate justice. What climate justice makes is a clear call for those countries, those corporations, to respond to the historical responsibilities of the ecological and polluting debt. We are calling for that. I think this kind of, if I'm thinking and reflecting now on this space of healing, when we call about reparations, I think it goes beyond a monetary reparation. It goes beyond money. And I'm sad. And I'm going to be open. I was not expecting to be so open. This makes us sad. The reparations that we are looking, I appreciate this space, and I'm thankful, because I feel that I am able to open myself in this space. I feel this can be a safe space. We are looking for those healing reparations from what our ancestors had to go on. I have not been suffering any type of enslavement. I have not suffered any type of torture, physical torture, but still I feel that carrying on. And this is something that we as women mainly have been changing, or are working hard to change. Women have been put it into a certain role, into a certain square, in which is the care, no, like the roles of care, for instance. And if you make an analysis, I'm not going to bring that numbers here, but if you make the reflection on how much care has been the work that women have been doing to subsidize capitalism, to subsidize production, it's just insane. And we are still not valuing that work. We are still not recognizing that work. We are still thinking that the woman that stays at home, taking care of the kids, cooking, washing, that is not recognized. That is not an achievement. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
We are not reflecting on our roles as a society. And this is something that we are changing, because this is affecting the way that women communities are able to adapt and respond to climate change. These stereotypes are restricting the access, control, and use of resources, of information, of the strategies to bring up their knowledge, to participate, to engage, and to have a vote in their present and in their futures. That's why it's so important to understand the gender aspect of this discussion, because we cannot leave aside more than half of the population. And it's not only women that I'm talking about. I'm also talking about lesbians, trans, non-cis-binary, all the different diversities that recognize, not recognize as woman, whatever it is. Because there are different layers of discrimination, and discrimination is something that comes from this past and that we have to change. If we don't change that, we cannot move on.
So Gina, thank you so much. And I would just love to give a moment to the feelings that you were bringing, that deep place that you were touching. You know, because there's a very strong message that you bring, and there's also a very strong transmission coming through you about the message. And the place that you touched about the importance of restoration that is not just monetary really touches the heart of the work of the Pocket Project, the work that we do on the reparation of collective trauma. And I'm very touched that you bring it here and land it in the space, in the clear voice that you have brought. And I wonder, as we complete now, that whether we can just stay with you for just a little while, just feeling that deep place where your heart and your ancestry is calling for a real meeting place. What I hear you say is that the acknowledgements of the transgressions, but also much more deeply that humanity recognizes humanity, and that there is an inner movement and an inner action that needs to be done for true mutual understanding and forgiveness to be able to arise, that needs more than monetary amounts to be shifted around. It's a deep transformation and a deep healing that you're speaking about.
And there is something from the COP, like to try to keep on maybe giving also a touch on that, and a topic that is very relevant and that is on the top of the discussions here, that is called loss and damage. And loss and damage refers, you might have heard about adaptation, you might have heard to mitigation, climate change. But there is something that has not been on the table for a long time, and is loss and damage. I mean, it means those permanent and irreversible losses and damage that communities are already experiencing, that have experiences, and the discussion also what we are as civil society collectively pushing and making this understanding is there are monetary quantifiable losses and damages, but they are non-quantifiable or monetary losses and damages, like for example, traditions, like for example, language, culture, habits, relationships between the communities that are going to be flooded by climatic weather extreme events. And that is going to be just lost.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about that. And this is something that we are bringing into the discussion. So you might hear from the COP discussions or in the news, maybe the term loss and damage. And
yeah, we've been speaking about it here. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're pushing, yes, for financial. A big topic is the financial mechanism for reparations, but we are also bringing this light of there is something quantifiable like a house, but there is something that you are not looking at, and it's this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Gina, for bringing your power and your presence here to us. And I'm somehow very delighted that Linda Kabaira will be picking up from you and taking us to a deep place also where the loss and the damage can be tasted and how it affects a culture, and also the work of so many powerful leaders on the ground that is being impeded, where wonderful work is being done, but not necessarily receives the support that it should be receiving. Yeah. So thank you so much, Gina, for being with us. You're suddenly gone. Maybe we can just bring you back just for a moment. I just want to say a huge thank you to you.
And thank you so much for this space, and thank you for bringing this space for so many people around the world. I have been looking the chat where people come from in different languages, and it's amazing that there is such a global space of healing. I hope I can get in touch and know more about the process. Thank you.
Yes, it feels like your inner resonance is very close with what we're doing. So yes, let's connect.
I have been following a process of collaboration with Extinction Rebellion from the UK that are working as well on these topics, and I think this is something that we need.
Wonderful. You so much. Wonderful. Thank you, Gina. Thank you. Yeah, so maybe just take a moment now to come back to yourself and feel the reverberation of these powerful words with the information that comes through the words, that comes through Gina's body, Gina's ancestry, Gina's energy towards us. And just take a moment to notice, wow, how has this landed in me? Maybe you were really fully with Gina with your attention, so consciously come back to yourself for a moment. And just noticing how this has touched your body. And not needing to push away responses. You know, many of us, when the words colonialism, racism. These are such big topics. When these words fall, worlds open. Let's just see whether we can sit with the discomfort, the connectedness, the disconnect. And take a moment to be kind to yourself and soft with yourself in that space. And this body is really our instrument as we do the restoration work, the true restoration work. It goes through our bodies. It goes through the cells of our bodies. It goes into our ancestral lines, into what we still carry forward, where the ancestral lines are alive in us. Like Gina said, she never experienced the torture and the enslavement, but she can feel it moving through her. And maybe just for a moment also notice what you feel moving through you. Maybe there's a humility, a clarity that we slowly but surely need to look more deeply. What is mine to do? What is the restoration that my ancestry is asking me for, is asking me to act upon, to put things right? Yeah, and we'll sit with that. And again, if you would like to share how you're doing right now in the chat. And in the meantime, I'll start introducing Linda. So Linda Kabaira is a woman that I have worked closely with for the past, I don't know, Linda, probably, well, at least 10 years, a bit more. Yeah. Thank you, Mohammed. Yeah, a woman who has been a teacher to me and to many about generosity of spirit, deep love for the earth, and deep love for the younger generations. So I have gotten to know Linda as an incredible, enthusiastic spreader of grow your own, eat your own, spreader of seeds, how to save seeds, how to spread seeds to the broken and bare schoolyards of Zimbabwe, how to teach school children and youth and young mothers how to grow their own food, how to shift school children from hungry bellies to full bellies as they aim to learn together. Yeah, and she comes really from 2 decades of implementing sustainable and regenerative food systems initiatives across Zimbabwe, and also spreading that inspiration to other places in Africa and the world. Like, she's been in Europe many times. She's been at COP with me and others. And she's also in the final stage of completing her PhD in agroecology and water and resilience focusing on exploring alternative systems for food in Africa. Yeah, and with that, I'd love to hand over the stage to you, Linda. Perfect. Thank you, Linda, and welcome to you. Thank you so much for being here. And I know that you're working in the communities at the moment, that you were working in schools just today, and you're in a place where the internet might be shaky, but I think it's beautiful and clear. So over to you.
Thank you, Kosha. Thank you, everyone. I feel very overwhelmed. I feel your love. I feel your warmth. I feel your support. I feel very humbled and honored to really be here tonight. Thank you so much. It's night time here in Zimbabwe, and it's been a long day. So I thank you so much for this honor. I'm coming from a place where I'm representing women in Zimbabwe, the young people in Zimbabwe, at the edge or in a place where we also in a place where we've really had a drought in the last year, and we are during the lean months of the year where 50% of our population are actually struggling with just basic food, like a normal meal. And when I was in the schools today, we actually realized we have learners who leave home coming to school with anything, and their hope is that we will find something at school. So this is the hope that I carry every day. I was hoping I would have my slides so that I would start speaking through some of the experiences that we have in Zimbabwe. So, yes. So I am representing the women, the children that fear when it rains. Right now we have lightning, thunderstorms outside, because every time when it rains, we get scared. Is it going to end well? We get excited that we have the rains, but then at the same time we also worry. So this is a photo that was taken in 2014 with a young person, and we were in a place where they'd been excited to grow food. But then things happened, it changed. Every day they would wake up going to their fields to check how the crop was doing, and this was the result. And when I was listening to Gina about the whole issues on colonialism and everything else, it took me to this place where we've had colonialism being so deep and engraved in us that we do monocropping. Years that passed by, we used to grow different kinds of foods. My grandmother, speaking for my grandmother, she used to grow groundnuts, cowpeas, sorghum, millet. But today, with the colonialism, the dependent syndrome, people just focus on growing one crop, which is maize. And as a nation, as we speak now, we have child stunting, malnutrition, which is at 30%, where 1 in 3 children under 5, and the ones that are still growing actually are not so well fed, because all that people grow is maize. And who brought maize? The seed actually comes with the multinational companies, the Dew Points, the Pioneers, all these different companies that come sell the seed to us. And what do? We give them the money, they go away. The next season comes, we're still going to pay for that seed. But that seed doesn't even do so well in our nation. So we find ourselves in this whole cycle of struggling with the droughts ravaging our communities. We grow food, but the food is not enough. Right now in the lean months, we had 50% of our population doesn't know what they're going to eat. So this is a bit of what happens, the paradoxes in my country. When it rains, it's either it's not enough the variability doesn't make sense. It rains for 2 months, then it goes dry the whole month. And then 2019 was the hardest hit for us with Cyclone Idai. I think some of you experienced that. And in the last a few years, we've been having cyclones after cyclones. In the picture, we see that woman. It was after her home was destroyed, leaving actually no evidence of a home being there. And we had over 270,000 people in Zimbabwe being displaced. And when we talk of Southern Africa, we're looking at 3 million people not knowing where they will live. And as we speak today, 2-3 years after the Cyclone Idai 2019, we still have Cyclone Idai victims living in tents. Their homes were taken away. They were displaced. And so now, when it rains, people think, is it really going to be a good season? Is it going to be a good thing? So even the young people, the young men, all they could do, the ones that were stronger, were the ones that could take their clothes, take at least something before they left, when they were fleeing the cyclones. And in the last 5 years until now, we've been having cyclones after cyclones. And every time when it starts raining, we are thinking, so what is it going to end like? Yes, so this has been the picture where young men are supposed to go around carrying the victims and bringing hope, even if they are also very despondent. This is a person who's now having the pictures, just looking at the pictures of their family after the whole family was wiped away by the cyclone. And all they could do was to look at the pictures, holding the memories of what was, so that it could help them to move on and find a new life. So over the years, and now with the cyclone until today, we still find families that are so fearful, mothers and young kids, to an extent that the young kids that had to experience seeing soldiers coming to rescue people after the cyclone died. So today, it's still very traumatic for the young person in the areas that were hard hit by cyclone Idai. Women and children are the ones, even up to this day, who are not sure whether it's going to be a good thing for the rains to come or not. Especially those that have lived a little longer. They have memories of our nation being able to carry them through, the rains being able to bring forth a bumper harvest. But today, you have to always be alert, just in case something else happens. This is the image of the helicopter coming to pick some of the victims post the Cyclone Idai of 2019. So having spoken about all the fears that we carry as women, we carry as mothers, we carry as sisters, I work and represent an organization called the Zimbabwe Institute of Permaculture, the Schools and Colleges Permaculture Program, where we work with young people in school and out of school, just focusing on the hope that we can bring in this crisis, where we cannot just wait for the rains to come, but just letting the kids be prepared for the evolving world and the evolving climate. We are certain that the climate variability, the climate change is real, and we are working so that young people can be in the forefront of being prepared for the changing and the evolving climate, because we are sure that things are not ever going to be the same. So the hope that we carry is that young people can at least be the solutions to their problems. So under such circumstances, we work around rainwater harvesting, making sure they grow plants, harvest as much water as they can, so that we replenish the water tables for months such as these when it's lean, and they are able to at least provide and grow food that will be able to sustain them. We've been running campaigns with the young people around growing your own, cooking your own, and eating your own. We've also been running campaigns about my food is African, I am an African, my seed is my right, my seed is my life, so that at least the young people can be in the forefront and being able to be problem solvers in their lives. So we really work at a school, transform a school from being a bare ground into an edible and a livable space where they will be able to learn how to navigate within these spaces where everything else is so uncertain. So within these spaces, again, we really ensure.
Just a reminder that there is translators who try to translate that for our Ukrainian and German speaking audience. And if you can slow down just a little for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Yeah, so it's just working with the interiority of the young people. That it's scary outside. It's really scary out there. But the interiority should be hopeful. They should be aware that they contribute. And the spaces that we're creating in the schools are the spaces where we want the young people to be able to realize the power that they have in them being at the center. So we work with young people as the center of the change that we want to see and the hope that we want to see in the world. So we work across the different aspects, but with a focus more on grounding. Who are we? Where do we come from? And how do we become citizens that are helpful to the community? How do we navigate the waste management issues? How do we navigate the climate change, the challenges we have around water? How do we navigate the food security and the challenges around us? So they become the actors who then, after learning, they go to their families, influence growing of the food, influence conscious eating right, so that at the end of the day, we have eco-conscious citizens that own the spaces and own who they are. There has been a lot of engravement of the things that come from the West are superior. The monocultural systems are superior. So we really work around celebrating we are the Africans, we are Zimbabweans. So as you see there, we really work around ensuring that they own who they are. They own the rights they have around use of their land right, owning the seeds they have, our tradition, the culture around food, which is inspired by the Ubuntu, which is our tradition right from where we come from, our ancestral lineages, and how significant those were back then. As people navigate the modernity, the consumption issues, our focus has been that how do we bring these spaces back that young people call on their nations and become passionate about being the people they are supposed to be. So in these spaces, we've also faced challenges around having to stay true to ourselves with regards to issues of seed. Like I indicated earlier, much of the seed that is grown in our country comes from these multinational companies, and they work with our governments, the extension officers and everyone else. So they try and promote the hybrid seeds against our local pollinated variety, our own seeds, to an extent that at some point in some of the countries in Africa, they've taken away the right for seeds from the farmers, from the communities, so that they are able to promote the hybrid seeds. So we are continuously reminded of the systems of injustice that takes away the right, our right to grow food, our right to be Africans, our right to life in the future that we have, against all the hope that we have of our own seeds being able to be resilient, being able to adapt to our own communities. as slowly and continuously and consistently, we see the hope in the young people who can clearly declare by the work and the way they own the work that they are doing, that the future could be bright. Thank you.
Yeah, Linda. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing. And I also know from your work, and I think it's good actually to maybe just say a few words about that too, how much hard work it is to work for many years in an area like this. You know, as you say, currently you're in a country where 50% of the population does not have the food they need, not the full amount of food that they need, where 30% of children are stunted because they don't receive enough healthy food. And to work in these kind of environments, bringing the hope that you bring with the seeds and it takes a lot of courage and power. And I can see the love and the appreciation for you streaming into the chat. And I also know that there's a longing to support you in more ways here in this space. And I wonder how it is for you as a leader, like to feel us with you. How is your body right now? And what would be good for you right now, Linda? I mean, I can feel that you're very touched. It's a lot to share what you have shared.
I'm just grateful to be in this place where I'm given an opportunity to serve in the best way I can. I eat this, I sleep this, I live this, and this is the energy that I get from doing this. So having an opportunity to share and knowing that all of you, this space, this community is willing to listen, that's a lot of support for me. And that's the energy that I need right now. I actually feel very joyful and very grateful, very safe, and very inspired that there is a place where people can uphold, listen, and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, and I don't know whether Sunita shared with you, but the Pocket Project has a dream of beginning an Africa support project. So I long for streams of restoration and also concrete friendship and solidarity to flow to your work in Zimbabwe and support you. Because I know it's not just, as Gina already said, it's not just the material level, it's the heart level, where there are times when we do this work of transformation that we feel alone, or we just need the support to know that others see us, they love us, they have our backs. Yeah, thank you so much for being with us here tonight and bringing your love and your beauty and your courage into our space. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, and with that, let's take the spotlight off Linda, and I hope you stay with us, Linda, and we'll just offer the space to you here on the call. You know, and I also read some of the, there's just beautiful feedback here. And I also read some feedback before, after we felt into our ancestry about how challenging it is to feel into that and connect to these places and notice maybe places of shame or guilt, or where we are called to stand up and acknowledge that there was, I'm trying to find a better word, and I cannot today, so forgive me, because I've been told by some people that perpetrators is a strong word, and I know there is a better word that doesn't sound quite as strong, but in our lineages, there has been perpetration also, and how painful it is to be with that, and to not go away from it, also not dissolve in the shame and the guilt, but to be with it and start to see it in a healthy way. And again, to find a way of titrating with it, finding our way with it together, knowing that we're not alone. So I'd love to invite you, if there's any question you have, any sharing you would like to make. And I especially invite you to really bring your bodies and your emotions with you, so that as you share as much as possible, you try to speak through your body with a deep awareness from your embodiment, whatever it is you want to say. And it can be short, so that we can hear a few voices. Yeah, and sometimes words need to be spoken as they are, and to feel that. So maybe we take the spotlight down and I come to, okay, I'll come with you, Gary, so you're not alone, but we'll spotlight you and we'll invite you to start sharing. Thank you for coming online.
Okay, it took a moment to unmute myself here. I'm feeling very moved by the sharings by Gina and Linda. I feel that I am learning a lot from these beautiful women. And I feel like I'm learning a lot. This is only the second day that I've been able to attend because of my schedule, but even with that, I'm feeling the growing sense of knitting in the community that is here. Just feeling that on a, in the field. And I'm very moved by that. And I'm also I've been learning in my own work and research, subjective research and investigation, how powerful it is when we can tune into the growing strength of our field of goodwill and hold that in juxtaposition with the energy in the field of those people who are currently in those positions of power to make decisions for all of us. And that I was just reading from a spiritual text last night that there's tremendous power in even one filament of coherence in an unstable system. And we are living in a highly unstable system right now. And this text asserts that that unstable system is actually useful because it allows for change. And here we are establishing these filaments of coherence. And that is why I wrote in the chat earlier that I feel resourced and optimistic. I'm holding that simultaneously with that sense of grief, loss, outrage, and the necessity of us recognizing each other as interwoven agents of change. So thank you, and just deep sense of appreciation and blessings for this work that is spreading in the field. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. So powerful. And maybe we just take a moment to presence you more so we can just leave you here. Thank you. Yeah, so just taking a moment to, maybe you can, as you share, maybe you can also share with us, where in your body do you feel this? Because there's a power that you're speaking from, like, as you say, this feeling the field of goodwill grow.
I'm feeling it, and this is something that has been developing in the time I've been studying with Thomas, increasing presence in my head, connected to my heart. And from that, because that's been my prior training, but from that, the rooting down through the belly and into the root. That, and I feel that as that's happened, it's enabled me to actually step forward and repurpose some of those energies that were in trauma loops as that continues to heal.
Yeah, beautiful.
And thank you, Kosha. Thank you for holding and hosting this space so beautifully.
Yeah, and I think really what you just mentioned, that it's this, like, a lot of presence here coming into the heart and then rooting. And I do wonder whether that's also a message to us that we, because there's many cultures, many wisdom traditions that also say how we connect through our roots, that our roots are a place of connection. Yeah. Thank you, Gary. Thank you. Yeah, and I would love to hear some more voices from our field. This knitting, it also happens through each of us stepping forward and us recognizing ourselves in the people who speak. It's like we see a part of ourselves speak when we hear Gina speak, when we hear Linda speak. So is there anybody else who would like to share tonight? And you're welcome to go to gallery view, just as we wait for our community. Give space to each other. Also acknowledging that many of us are shy to speak in front of a group like this. So Marilyn. Hi.
Hello. I feel my heart beating very fast. I guess at the core of what I'd like to express is thank you for your inquiry at the beginning about going into our own ancestral place where we could reconnect with the earth and with a system of connection. And I've been feeling that all the way through the presentations today, the setting of reconnecting with my lineage of farmers and women, in particular my female ancestral line, and the resilience that's in that particular line. So I know each of us holds that, and as Thomas says, you know, we go back not too far, and we're all really very much intertwined in our roots. And so I appreciate the setup from today. It allowed me to open into the presentations with that sense that I am deeply connected with the women who spoke today. And I'm also deeply connected with the parts of me that are in that stream of capitalism and colonialism, and it's all in here, and it's all begging for solutions and reconnection. So thank you for this space.
Yeah, and again, you know, before we let you go, Marilyn, if I may, I'd love to again also just hear, how does this feel in your body as you speak about these different parts that are alive, and in your emotions? If you could just give us a little signpost. You know, we're all feeling you right now. We're with you, but to deepen that. You're still muted. Yeah, now we can hear you.
I feel very stirred up and very alive, and it very deeply inspired, and really grateful to be in this community.
Yeah, I noticed when you came online, like for me, tears came up even, you know, just from, and I love how you're, as you speak, you know, that edge of being really stirred up and alive, because it's also a little bit uncomfortable, maybe, but that could be a good place to be, not to go too deep into it, not to go far away from it, but just be in that place. That it's also a place where new information can arise and new connections can be made.
That's the alive place.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going back to gallery view. Yeah, there could be space just for one short last sharing if somebody still wishes to. And otherwise, we can also just allow the beauty of this evening and the power of Linda, the power of Gina, complete this day, this evening, with a prayer for your work, Linda, in Zimbabwe. And we could all just, close our eyes for a moment, and in whichever way feels right for you, to just visit your heart space for a moment. And speak a prayer that is in your heart, that is true for you in this moment. It might be for the restoration work, it might be for a longing for support, a prayer for Linda's work in Zimbabwe, for the young people, the women, the children whose growth is stunted. Whatever calls to you right now, but to speak a prayer in your interiority, in your inner space, and allow it to go deep into your heart. And then let's see whether we can just allow our hearts to open more into the space, towards each other, towards Linda. Many of us might be in places where we also feel stirred up, moved, or we feel numb, or we feel grief. That we send our love and our care to each other, to ourselves, to each other. And now allow our hearts to deepen this web of connectedness in our online community. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Gary, for sharing. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Gina, for bringing your heart and your passion. Yeah, and thank you to Daria and Sandra from Ukraine who are translating to Ukrainian. Thank you to Alfred who's translating to German. Thank you to Ben and Anna who are holding our space for us. Yeah, and all of you who are weaving the space. So tomorrow we have a really special day coming. trusting what the heart knows. So here we go, trusting what the heart knows in our prayers today, trusting what the heart brings in our space. And tomorrow we'll be looking at trusting what the heart knows with Charles Eisenstein, who says it makes sense to trust what the heart knows beyond evidence in a world of conflicting information where our mind alone can no longer provide an adequate navigation system. Trusting our heart in a world where our mind alone can no longer, and I think probably never could, provide an adequate navigation system. It makes sense to the heart that earth healing is possible. And that is what you spoke about today, Linda. It makes sense to the heart that earth healing is possible. Our very presence and our care here right now is testimony to what is possible. So that is where we will go tomorrow. And we will be sharing the recordings of all our events as soon as they're edited. We'll also do our best to share some of them with the Ukrainian language. Unfortunately, we're not also able to share them with the German translation. And you will always find them the following day on our website. And maybe, Anna, if you can just put that link again. Also, thank you to those who've been watching the movie. You Can Never Be the Same. It's actually, once you know, you can never be the same. And I think the ones who've watched the movie understand why it carries that title. And I really encourage you to watch it with friends or family. And it's a sweet movie, it's a soft movie, it's a beautiful movie, and it's a deeply stirring movie. And as I shared before, the producer, Emmanuel Capelin, will join us on Sunday. I also want to just mention already that on Friday, we'll be meeting an hour earlier. So anybody from California will need to get up a bit early. And we'll be hearing from Ukraine. Really looking forward to that. And also do go and have a look at the beautiful interviews from the Collective Trauma Online Summit that we're sharing with you. Powerful interviews. So that is it for today. Be well, be safe. Goodbye, Linda. Bye, darling. Love you and see you again tomorrow, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.